I'm going to tell everybody in school, if you want to see my dad on YouTube, to say on it, the tape never lies. Go sit in the hat.
Yes.
For Lord Cars.
Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. Man to the people.
You know it's Cars Keys. Let's get it started up. Give me the car keys. Lakeshore Drive. Blog boys drive away with our texts like car thieves. Breakdown, we study tape and thrive.
Analytical preparation, that's what Cars is given. Cars don't discriminate, teaching the men and women. Each and every week, bears nerd to get your focus. Never manipulating stats, law, cars and hocus pocus. Cars Keys, they're never lost. Checking source, never gonna find a better scouting report. Cars going live with the smartest man, my bestie. Deciphering holes on the defense like Getsy. New show, uniforms, orange with the dark sea. Tape never lies, patrons, this is Cars
You know
Keys.
it's Cars Keys. Let's get it started up. Give me the car keys. Lakeshore Drive. Blog boys drive away with our texts like car thieves. Breakdown, we study tape and thrive. We gotta break down tape like detectives. No hot takes, just real football perspectives. The Bears nerd dropping science on his terms. TTNL giving Bears press like a perm. Other networks is off with the heads. Stats plus film equals football cred. Analysis like Data Ted tries to shred. McCaskey's letting me cake, we keep the 100 crew fed. Cars Keys, let's get it started up. Give me the car keys. Lakeshore Drive. Blog boys drive away with our texts like car thieves. Breakdown, we study tape and thrive. Lord Hines in his car, fill up a goblet. Lord Hines in his car, fill up a goblet.
Where are we? What was with that dramatic delay? I don't know, but welcome to Cars Keys, Season 2, Episode 24, the End of Days show. It's over. Or is it? I don't know. We're going to talk about it. We're going to pull you guys off the ledge, or fuck it. We might just hug you guys and jump right off the cliff with you. We'll get it. Let's get the guy out here. Everybody's waiting for. Let me change the background so we can bring back this guy.
Hey, everybody. How's it
Mr.
going?
Mr. Shayne himself in the bag.
You know, I was so positive on this team, and I think it's only fitting that I take this like a Detroit Lions fan and just wear a paper bag on my head for the time being.
Yeah, I mean, it protects you from all of the bullshit that we hear
Oh my God.
being spewed out of the head coach's mouth. Even, you know, like I said, Cars, I know we're going to get into it, but I know Justin was pissed off. I would have much preferred him not speaking a second time. Sit on what you said. I respected the first one. I was glad that he was pissed off. I was glad that he was irritated. Like I said, it's just I got some big fundamental issues with this franchise and the way that it's constructed. I mean, and to me, square one, you have to hold Ryan Pace accountable because
Polls.
Jesus Christ. Let's bring back Pace at this point. Not really, but Ryan Poles, I mean, he is the guy that brought Eberflus in. And just real quick, Cars, before we get into it, how the fuck does this go on? And I understand there can be legal ramifications, but after everything that's going on, how the fuck are you waiting until today before you address your football team? about the situation. I mean, it's amateur hour at its fucking finest. It's do you remember back in the message board days,
The
the
Dave
fiery
McGinnis
blast,
hire.
the blasphemous gif that we used to put up there? That's what I think of. There's no words for it.
It's just like the Dave McGinnis hiring fiasco. It's just like that. This has been or just like the post whatever Nagy's second to last season, that post-season conference where Ted Phillips was jumping on all weird, and they were talking about the culture, and you're talking about the culture and everything. It just goes to show, no matter
what culture,
it's not a good one, right?
Yeah.
And I just sort of look at it like, we hired professionals to do this for the first time, and this is really the first time that they've been challenged, and they failed that challenge. Because this even goes above and beyond, Ryan Poles. This really goes up to Kevin Warren as well. If you've got all these people, and he brought in all these new folks to start to do this and to make this run like a professional organization, days like yesterday should not happen. There is no excuse for it. And when you come off a week in which you were ill prepared at best, and a horrible game plan, you kind of were like, it's okay. It's not okay, but you kind of were like, we have professionals in the room, and this is what we're going to do. And then we come out looking like amateur hour, and all the reports of, FBI raided the office, and Peanut was telling the Bears that they had to do this, and that's not true. Like, at some point as a franchise, you need to get the right and best message out that you can. And there's still no message today from that franchise.
Right.
And it is...
Yeah,
it's disgusting.
Quick. Eric, no, they didn't come out and say anything publicly, but there is a way when you hear, what goes on in the locker room stays in the locker room, but every single one of those players deserve something. You don't have to let them know all of the legalities, and none of them knew. You had a player in Tyreek Stevenson come out today, said, we haven't even heard from Coach Eberflus anything about what's going on with our defensive coordinator. And that is wrong. That is not the right approach. Under any circumstance, you're asking these players to go out there and put their lives on the line every single time they take the field, and you're not even being honest with them about the situation. Now, you can explain things, and I know there's a business aspect to this. There's a legal aspect to it. There's a way. You don't have to tell them everything. You have to tell them something, and to not address it at all is a fucking big problem with this franchise. And that starts, listen, I don't care if you got here on April 17th or whatever day it was that Kevin Warren started, when he went through and said he was going to interview every single person in the organization to find out things that they needed, things that they did not like. That's a problem that starts with you, Kevin Warren, and then it goes to Ryan Poles and Ian Cunningham and to Matt Eberflus and all the way down through. These players deserve at least something, and it should not have taken until today, after the craziness of yesterday, for this to happen. There's just no way that I will believe anybody that is justifying that stance.
Well, I think if you just pull back, you were comfortable enough to put player in, and obviously you have to put players out to be interviewed every day. It's part of everything that happens. But you're not going to at least prepare the people. You're sending players out to answer for a franchise.
Yeah.
You made the players available before you made your GM. You didn't even live stream that press conference.
Right. And that's it's so Chicago. It's so Chicago Bears, Cars. It is.
You basically sent out a rookie kid to take all the questions that you refuse to answer. And, again, it's as happy as I am that polls at least said something. The fact that this was not a live press conference and it wasn't in a situation where things could be done, it's amateur hour once again. And I had hoped, like we had said a lot, like there are professionals in the room. There had been so much goodwill that had been built up by some of the things that they had done
Right.
and gotten in front of it. And it just goes to show you make, and this isn't even a mistake, like you make a decision that is the wrong decision from go. And whoever tells you it's the right decision is the wrong person.
Yeah,
But if you make that
totally agree.
decision from go, it's not a bad decision. It is back to amateur hour. And I no longer can sit down and be like, I have faith that they're going to do the right thing. That's
Right.
all gone.
And Bears fans shouldn't. This team hasn't earned the benefit of the doubt at all.
No, it had
And
always
that's
been hope, right?
right. And
Hope.
everything is based on hope. Oh, how many times have you guys heard me say on any show on our network that being a Bears fan is thinking change is going to fix everything? It's, we drafted a wide receiver number 7 overall in the first round. We got our guy for the next 10 to 12 years. You're just assuming that everything is going to be fixed. And especially at the quarterback position, there's so many things that go into it just beyond what you see on the field. And
Yeah.
Cars, these I don't want to say quote unquote experts because they're much smarter than I am and much more experienced than I am in the game of football and tape analysis and all of that. But I respect the hell out of JT O'Sullivan. I respect the hell out of Tim Jenkins. But all you have to do is go back to both of those guys breaking down the Chicago Bears situation, and every fucking bullet point is a polar opposite. Cole Kmet's a player from Tim Jenkins. Cole Kmet isn't an NFL caliber tight end from JT O'Sullivan. It's just boom, 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 saying that Justin has some major issues, and then the other, it's not on the coaching. Then the other is Justin's flaws are easily fixable, and it is the coaching, and it just everybody is all over the map. And unfortunately, Cars, it's this coaching staff and this regime included. We've been sold a bill of goods saying that these guys are turning over every rock, they're eating, sleeping, and shitting football, and nothing has changed so far. Nothing. You have a head coach come out and Cars, if the Bears went out and won in Tampa convincingly, Eberflus would have a fucking answer for every single question. You're smart enough. You've been around this, Cars. They go out and they get boat raced. It's the same boat. Oh, we got to go back. We got to look at the tape. Yeah, we're not real sure on that. That's what they default to. They let the media guy control the situation. Two more guys. Two more. Oh, we're gonna speak on this on Wednesday, and then it comes Wednesday. They don't speak on it. It's because it's this cyclical pattern of bullshit and nonsense because we're a rabid fan base wanting something, and we get nothing in return.
And that's the hard part. I have very candidly, for the most part, been off Twitter since my work trip last week because it has gotten to the point where the negativity, which is well deserved, I don't want to say that it's not, but it is just everywhere and it seeps into everything. And we, as a fan base, crap all over everything. And the hard part about this is like there has been sprinkling of good in what has been going on, and it's the hard part is I wanted more than just a sprinkle at this point.
Yeah.
And someone that I had sat down and said, I'm giving this till week 4 because that's when I want to see everything. And if you watch a lot of these games and you've watched a lot of these early portions, offenses everywhere are sloppy. it has not been a good looking couple of weeks. That said, it's, everything that could go wrong in 2 weeks
Yeah.
has absolutely gone wrong. You could not have asked, even if the Alan Williams thing had not happened. And again, I think the biggest insult to me is, and a lot of people have said the question, like, could they say something legally? Most likely, no. But what they could have done is just say, hey guys, Alan Williams is no longer part of the staff. He is not here. And that, even that as a message, as basic as it was
Right.
not relayed to anyone in that locker room. I don't know.
Yeah, it was. I mean, Tyreek Stevenson, like I said, came out today and said we have not heard from the head coach
But yeah, it just means
pertaining to this situation at all. That's a
he
fucking massive problem.
as the guy who wants to be the CEO of this team, when it's on game day and the way that it practices, he's got to take ownership of that as a message. And, if you contrast that to the message that he sent sort of after week 1, in which he went at Luke Getsy, and wished that they had gone more vertical and had taken that, I had thought, like, at least that was a very positive thing. It was nice to see the coach call that
right
out.
here, Ryan Cox with the quote of the night so far.
Yeah.
The players found out about Williams the same way we did.
Yeah.
Should never happen.
Yeah.
Never happen.
But to sit there and be like, in 1 week, you went front and center and you took ownership and you challenged the team. The next moment, you wilted like a flower, and it's getting to the point where it's really difficult to sit down and really watch this game. I can tell you that watching this game on Sunday was the most relaxed and calm I've ever been, because I just, after the script plays went away, it was just so easy to just watch.
Do you remember me
as
texting you
soulless.
and Ryan Cox that? I'm like, let's see what happens after the first 15. And it was
Nothing, because
down the fucking toilet. Yeah.
it's and the scary part is so much of this is so eerily similar
Nagy.
to Matt Nagy. I mean, Matt Nagy was good on the script. Luke Getsy is better. The second the script goes away, it's brutal. And there's no flow into these things, and there's no understanding into, like, the use case. But the thing that concerns me the absolute most is really just the thing that's the most common to me to Matt Nagy is, in every play, there are 10 people doing the right thing, and there is one person who is not. Sometimes that's Justin. Sometimes that's an offensive lineman. Sometimes it's a wide receiver or a tight end. But that part has never gotten cleaned up in that handoff. The reason the offense is failing isn't just Justin Fields, and it's not just Luke Getsy. It is a combination of those two as some of the bigger drivers. But the bigger issue is these players are just not consistent down in, down out. It's, you look at what happened with Kansas City with Kadarius Toney in week 1. They went right back to him last week. They got him a lot of touches. They gave him a chance.
Good teams do.
And he responded. This team, it just keeps happening, and nothing good is really coming of it. And it's what's concerning to me is defenses have found a way to really protect against the run of Justin and to really stress him. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But there's been no adjustments, and the bye week's not for 7 more weeks.
Right.
Wait, no, we're week 13.
Yeah, it's late this year.
You're
Yeah,
not.
very late.
If you can't wait to the bye week this year, you can't.
No, I
you
agree.
don't have any of that. You don't.
Yeah, you're looking at week 8, week 9 in that range.
You have to make, because when's our next? We've got a Thursday game and at week 5, right? So between week 5 and week 6, that's from Washington to Minnesota. that's a point in time that you can see an overhaul, but you have to start that overhaul process now. The offense, as you wanted it to run, which was going to be a lot of
Right.
getting yards after catch plays, teams aren't buying it anymore. They don't care. They're challenging you, and you have to do it. And it's scary to me. Like I think we've talked a lot about it. We expected the defense to be somewhat better, and overall, they actually are better. They're not good enough, and it's
Right. Well,
exacerbated by the offense being shit.
and it is. And Cars, I think a lot of the the defense isn't anywhere near where they need to be, but the spotlight and sole focus needs to be put on third and longs. It just listen,
Oh,
where's your confidence level on a third and long? I have no confidence. I'm more surprised when the team doesn't convert on
it's
offense.
I'm with you.
It doesn't matter if it's 3rd and 9 or 3rd and 19.
I'd actually
And
take 3rd and 9 over 3rd and 19
yeah,
sometimes, for
I agree.
to be honest. And there's a lot of these questions, and I think this one's I don't think, Shayne, that this is what you're saying, and I'm not quite there yet either. I think the red
No.
flags are getting a brighter shade
Mhm.
of red right now. But there's still, like,
And
that story isn't done. The
but this
longer
is
it takes, the less likely he is to be the guy.
listen,
But
you cannot be in year 3 in in the NFL and missing guys that are wide open. And
yeah,
it's not just once. It's not just twice. There's major flaws in this offense. There's major flaws with the offensive coordinator. There's major flaws in the hits system. There's major flaws in the effort. I get it. Say what you want about Getty, and this is not me defending him at all. End of the fucking day, we can still show you on tape where Justin simply needs to just rip the ball, and he does not. And I think it was Eric in looking are we yeah, here it is right here. Are we this down on the offensive field just hits
no,
the dudes who are wide open? No, 100% we're not. But he's that seems like a big ask at this point. Why are we there in year 3 just throwing the football to a guy that's open? It's
it's well, and I got to this point some point in the second season of Mitch and Matt Nagy, where you kind of looked around and you said which one was holding who back, right? Because it was very similar. There were a lot of plays where Mitch was missing a guy, and did you overcompensate in some of these play calls? You're not pulling the trigger on these throws. So let me shorten it. Let me try to do these simpler things so that you will pull the trigger on these things. But then you see some of these plays and you see like guys too close together, and we're doing some of these similar things. Like we're missing things like slants. We're missing, pardon me, some of these other things that other teams do when time gets rough. And it's just problematic. There's enough evidence to sit down and say, like, I take that back. There's not. You can't really point a finger at one or the other. You have to sit down and point a finger at both. And that's a scary position to be in, because you have to have faith right now if you want the season to be anything,
right.
that
And
both of them are going to turn it around, and that's tough.
so Cars Vince is asking, if we win 3 to 4 games, do you think Poles maybe with a nudge from Warren fires Flus? Don't know how you would sell that to a fan base, bringing Flus back after 6 to 7 wins
Oh, he's gone.
in 2 years. No, I totally agree. Ryan Poles is not in my I do not think that they would launch. Do you think that they would launch Poles also?
No.
I don't either. I think it would be Flus, and everybody on the staff is launched to the fucking moon if that happened, because there's no if they preached all offseason, and this is a big, massive red flag on Ryan Poles himself when he said, we've did 75 to 80% of what we needed to do. And if you win 3 to 4 games, that's not true at all.
Correct.
But if you're Kevin Warren, you cannot sit idly by, because listen, there's another big project that you want to get rolling. That's going to cost billions. And when your mojo with this franchise is in the shitter, Cars, they have to put a jolt into it someplace. And if they bring this entire staff back, coming off another 3-win campaign, you're behind the 8 ball starting in 2024.
If you go 3-14, you're not, because you've got a top 3 pick and you're drafting a quarterback and you're not giving this team another chance. I mean, that's really the bottom line. But Steve, absolutely, if the wheels fall off here at some point, if we go 0-5, 0-6, something along those lines, I don't even think it would take, 3/4 of a season. If you start off with 4 or 5 losses from go, I think Matt would be gone. I don't think you can do, because at that point, what would it be? 17 losses in a row? If you went 0-5, you can't, you're done. He's gone. And that's the hard part, is who do you promote? I would imagine it would probably be Janoko for just for that, because I think Getsy would be part of that firing as well. Yeah. But if you cannot just sit here and tread water. As nice of a person as he is, that's just not going to be a thing. If you lose 5 in a row, someone's got to get fired. Maybe it's not Flus, maybe it's Getsy at that point.
It could very well be somebody that's been around the league for a long time in Hightower. You know what I mean? I wouldn't even be shocked.
That's a great point.
Because special teams coaches have to coach players on both sides of the ball. So, that's,
and we've seen that in Las Vegas and a couple other places that works pretty well.
Yeah. And I mean, a wild card, I don't know, and it's not paying off right now, but I know there's a lot of love and admiration for Tyke Tolbert around the league and with a lot of the players, but I just can't see them making that jump from wide receiver coach to interim head coach of the Chicago Bears. I just think that they would default to a guy that's been around the league for quite a while. And that's, to me, I could see them going to somebody like Hightower.
And that's the right way to look at it, though, right? Because what you're really just doing is trying to shepherd this team into the next season, so like you just want a steady hand that won't rock the boat, that will do some things to do this. It's really concerning. And again, we kind of keep seeing this, and I don't mean to call anybody out. I'm not saying that he's done. There is still a tremendous amount of time for this to get turned around. He's got to get out of his own head. The coaching staff has to do some things. He's got to feel free to run again. I don't think, and again, if I look at this,
nobody here said that he's done. Yeah. Nobody said that it's over.
And the fact that you're just hearing something that you want to do, and this has kind of been.
But let's just address this, Cars. And like I said, there's probably people in the chat that are not going to like this, and it happens in every form of social media. Unfortunately, if you say one negative thing, and it happened with Mitch, it happened with Rex, it happened with Jay, it's happening with Justin. If you say one negative thing, half the fan base agrees, and half the fan base thinks that you're a hater. Justin Fields said himself, everybody, I need to play better. Period. End of sentence. He's not bullshitting. He knows it. Us holding him accountable is us looking at the tape and seeing the flaws. We all want him to go out there and play better. We want the entire team. When Phil is breaking down his tape and showing you guys that, he's showing you that it's not just Justin.
Yeah.
But everybody, if you say one negative thing about Justin Fields, what do you mean he's done? Nobody's up here saying that. But I'm telling you, you show me a quarterback that's in year 3 in the NFL that cannot consistently throw the ball to open wide receivers. And that's where we're at right now.
He's got the yips, right? Like there are
100%.
throws, and if you watch him, he's double clutching, he's pumping. There are things that are there, and I'll have a screenshot of one that absolutely should have been thrown. And it's just one of those type of examples.
Right. Just real quick, but this is a classic case of what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I said year 3, and he's like, well, it's 2 weeks into year 3. It shouldn't be 2 weeks into year 2 if you're in the NFL. If there's a guy that's wide, and I'm not talking NFL wide open, that's 6 to 8 inches. I'm talking high school wide open on some of these throws that he's not ripping.
It's
a fucking problem, guys.
He missed a touchdown to Roschon Johnson.
Yes.
That was wide open.
And I know they said they said the spacing on that wasn't perfect.
It's never going to be perfect.
Stop. You have to rip that ball, and it's a touchdown. Pitch, catch, 6. End of story.
I'm good with
arguing semantics that it's week 2 in year 3 versus me just saying year 3 is you making an excuse for Justin Fields.
And that's
what it is.
The problem with all of it right now, right? People, they're as much as we all want to say it, people have narratives, right? And people have beliefs. And it was just like the Mitch versus Nagy thing. There were so many people that would go point out every play that Nagy had a bad play called up, and then everybody that was anti-Mitch would have a bad play that that Mitch missed a guy, right? And it's constant. As fans, we can sit down and see what it is that we want to see. And unfortunately, it is what it is. And again, at this point, no one is sitting here and saying that the season is lost. No one is saying that he cannot turn it around. And all of these things are absolutely possible. But when you look at the tape right now, Justin Fields is his own worst enemy. And that's where we are in year 3. There are throws to be made. It's there. If he starts making these throws, we absolutely are having a different conversation. The defense isn't on the field for as long as it is. They're scoring more points. I'm not going to even sit down and say something along the lines of like, look at that third down long throw to Mike Evans.
Jared, he's going for 302 tutties because they're going to lose 56-14.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
No, I butted in there. I just wanted to get it in.
If there is time for this to turn around, if he starts making those throws, the defense isn't on the field. What I was saying about, you look at that 3rd and long to Mike Evans, that was a push off on Tyreek Stevenson. And it was like 2 or 3 drives for that long one. He did the same exact thing. If you can start turning first, and I can to a degree understand, one thing we should give Matt Nagy credit for is, even though he knew it wouldn't work when he played Tampa Bay, he stuck with the run and he tried to do it. Luke Getsy looked at it and said, Minnesota, who was a very good running team last year, couldn't run against them, so we're not going to even try. And that, as a game plan, made it even worse.
And let me ask you this right there, just to that point, Cars. If I told you, so we're at Thursday, if I told you last Thursday, knowing everything that we knew about week 1 and all of the hype that came along after week 1 with Roschon Johnson, if I told you that in the Tampa game, he was going to get 4 carries for the game, what would you have said to me?
I would have laughed.
Exactly.
Like it's again, we keep kind of talking about this, but it is inexcusable, the idea that you wouldn't even go to attempt to run on Tampa. And Tampa sat down and punished us with the run because we couldn't stay on the field. And there's at no point should we walk into this game with 11 carries total from our running backs in a game that truthfully was never super out of hand. It was never something along the lines where you're like, we went into half and it was 13-10. And at that point, I think we had something like 5 runs at then. There, it is, and for a team where a quarterback is struggling to make reads, struggling to do this, there's no run game, there's no play action, there was no moving pockets, there was none of this stuff where you did it. As positive as it is to me that, they are throwing the ball more on first down, which is the way that you have to absolutely do it. The simple fact that the second run of this game was Velus Jones on an end around.
Yeah. Where your two tight ends did abso-fucking-lutely nothing.
It's just insane. And you look, so I'm looking through it right now. There are 3 runs we did by halftime. 4 runs. 4 runs by halftime. And it was a game that was 13-10.
Yeah.
You just don't even do
That's the thing, Cars. As bad as it was, like you said, look at the halftime score.
Yeah.
And it's just, and you were still in it until the fucking triple screens called. You still had a chance.
And the offensive line was not playing poorly. Like, that was the thing. It all fell apart in the second half, much like it did against Green Bay, because the play calling sucked. And the execution sucked. And when you just keep going back, yes, are there moments where someone on the line lets them down? Yeah, and it's going to happen every
100%.
game. But if I tell you that there are 10 sacks on Justin Fields through 2 games, and 5 of those are directly on Justin Fields' shoulders, you're talking half the available sacks are on him. Or I think it's 4. Sorry, 4 of the 10 are on him.
Why are you writing him off and saying that he's done by saying that?
Yeah,
you're in a no-win situation.
It's just a reality right now of, like, he's trying to do this stuff. You've got to figure out a way.
He himself said he tries to be a perfectionist in absolute fucking chaos. You cannot be. You can't take the time to be a perfectionist, or you're gonna fuck up.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But just I started here. Ben had a good question. I know it's been popping around everywhere. I don't know, Ben, if you got to watch. I know I wasn't on too long last night because I wasn't feeling well last night. But I told everybody don't be shocked if Peterman wasn't back in some form today. So I don't know if they did announce the Bears' plan was to poach a player from another team's practice squad. Now, if they do that, they have to add that player to the active roster. So they made the corresponding move. They released Peterman. You're not worrying about another team claiming him. They knew that they could get him back onto the practice squad, sign this other player. Well, the Bears didn't get that player. I don't know if he chose not to come or if the team elevated him. I don't have those particulars on that, but the deal fell through. The player did not come, so that's the open slot went back to Peterman. So that's how that started. And I know people get very, very fired up about this, and it's a bottom of the roster move that will probably happen. Cars 6 or 7 more times through the course of the season, at least. So people shouldn't overreact to it. It's just it's business. It's what happens. You're not worried about. Peterman is the ultimate wild card that you can release him, and other teams most likely not going to claim him. So you can go out and sneak somebody onto your active 53.
I think it's just the only thing you read into that is it speaks volumes as to where they are on Badgett and the fact that they were more
100%.
than comfortable in him being a number 2. And so that also If you're a pessimistic fan at this moment, you read a little bit into that because they want him around, that in case they move off of Justin, that it's going to be Tyson's show and it's not going to be Peterman, right? And so
Think Agent rips that ball to Roshan? You think he's worried about the spacing?
Why? Some of these guys get, when you don't have all the physical traits in the world, sometimes you're a better quarterback. If you look at Brock Purdy, as much as I think he's overhyped, but because he doesn't have all the tools in the world, he doesn't have the rocket of an arm.
Just had a hell of a touchdown pass, I'll tell you that.
I'm sure. You when you don't have all of those physical traits, you trust your players to make plays.
Yeah.
And right now, Justin is not trusting his players to make plays. And that is again, there's a lot of stuff going on. It's not just that, but that's holding him back. And when you look at this and you see, again, all the tape and you look at all the breakdowns, no, I think at some point, if this continues, you're going to have the Tyson show. It's just what it's going to be.
Yeah.
And it's going to be fascinating to watch the offense with it.
Jared, I don't think we're saying that he's going to fix everything, but when you're dealing with a player that is clearly has, I don't want to, Cars put it perfectly, the yips, where he's just simply not ripping the ball. You're in a fucking game where one touchdown can dictate the outcome. So
we were
maybe
20
he's not
to
going
17, right?
Maybe
like
he's not going to open up the entire offense, but maybe he wins you a game that you didn't win before. And that's what it is.
And I mean, if you want to let me just this throw, and pardon the pause. This is a sack. Okay? This right here is a sack. And look at the top of your screen right there. Look where Justin is looking. That ball absolutely needs to be ripped. Tyson Bagent most likely throws that ball. Or he might hit the running back right there. The fact that you have two guys, and this is going to be back to, we'll look at this again, because this is kind of that spot drop look that we'll have a tweet that we'll talk about in a little bit. But if you look at this, we have 4 guys out in a route against 6 defenders.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got 2 of them open. And this is a sack. This is the stuff that we're talking about. Again, you have to admit with Justin that he is missing things. This is a first down, top of the screen at the 40-yard line. No questions asked. If you get it to Herbert, shy of the 50, he's got enough space where he could probably get that corner and make that a first down. You have 2 first down looks, and it is a sack. I just don't know, when you have these conversations, you're right. I don't necessarily know that it's going to mean that we're going to start throwing 40 points a game. But if Tyson is there, those throws get made. He doesn't have the yips because he's not afraid right now because he's basically playing with house money right now, right?
Okay.
Nobody gave him a shot. He's a Division I AA kid or Division II kid. No one expects anything from him. It's just like Brock Purdy being Mr. Irrelevant. I'm not saying he's going to have that type of success, but he has nothing to lose. If you do not trust your players, and the biggest thing that Josh Allen made that jump on was when they added Stephon Diggs, he said, when in trouble, I'm going to Diggs. No questions asked. And right now, when he's in trouble, he is doing nothing. You can either run or throw, and he is doing neither of those two things.
Right. Yeah. And the run, sometimes he's just running into a sack. We saw that last week.
It's bad. And from here, can I just show some Justin numbers so I can fully get Justin hater on me?
Hey, you're the Cars and Cars Keys, bro.
All right. Well,
I'm Vanna White over here. I'm turning the numbers.
You know that I'm not going to sit here and run this like the dictator, like that other show. But when I say the line isn't that bad, if you kind of look, Justin is 8th slowest in time to throw. So the only longer is Bryce Young, both Zach and Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Mahomes, and Jimmy G. So you're looking at 2.72 seconds. It's not, and you look at those quarterbacks, right? Mahomes has a better line. Jimmy G has a better line. The Jets have a way worse line. If you had told me that coming into this season, holy cow, I would never have believed you. But if you look at that second one, that's really the bigger issue to me. So time to pressure. So from snap until there is pressure, Justin has the 8th best time, meaning there are 32 quarterbacks in the NFL. 24 quarterbacks have less time to pressure than Justin Fields. So when you sit down and say, hey, this isn't, it's the line. It's not. There are times where the line falls. There's some predictable play calls that are happening. But really, if you're talking 40% of your sacks are on Justin, that's not a line issue. That's him. So you see that in the next line. So we're looking at 11th in pressure percentage. I don't love that stat. It's an interesting one, but it doesn't take into account how many of those pressures are even coming from him holding on to the ball too long. But if you look at the bottom stats, this is where it kills me. So the one thing I said coming into the season is, the offense is successful and that 10 to 20 yard marker. Justin is 0 for 6 with 2 interceptions and 3 other worthy throws on 6 attempts. Now it's great 0 to 9. It's incredible 20 plus yards. But look at those numbers behind the line of scrimmage. That's not just terrible. To Shayne's point, that's not even Pop Warner level right now. And that interception that he threw basically behind the line was god awful. And when you look at this, the fact that he has of 66 passing attempts, that 28 of them are behind the line is ridiculous. Now, the converse of that, and I don't want to hear like this is just Getsy with sabotage, because we've shown you, and I know that Phil has shown you, there are plays to be made. Yeah. There were 2 very easy 15, 20-yard pass plays. The one I just showed you in that screenshot, there's going to be another one on that one to Roshan where there are deeper passes, and he's not pulling the trigger, and he is staring guys down big time. And this is, it is a well-known thing. So yes, in part, Getsy isn't helping by calling a lot of screens, but when he's drawing up a play where the ball needs to get out quick and there's stuff open, Justin isn't doing it. So you can't have one without the other. This is the complete, sometimes it's him, sometimes it's the other. It's constant, and it gets really frustrating to see it because the screen game works if those other throws are being done. That screen game works. Look at that first drive. That first play was a 33-yard pass to DJ Moore. That first pass, that is 2 wide receivers on 6 defenders. And that was a 33-yard play. And that was one where the window was tight. And look, the ball is already coming out. He was on time in the script. But you see so much of this now that they are calling in 2 versus 6. You're looking at 3 versus 7. You can't really see there at the top of the screen. There's another guy. There are 4 players. This is a bad play by Darnell Wright. But we're seeing so many of these different plays right now where there are 2 wideouts, 3 wideouts on a route, and teams are dropping DBs. 6 or 7 back. If that tells you anything, that is not an indictment on Getsy. That is an indictment on what teams believe they can do to confuse Justin Fields. He's not trusting what he sees. He's not throwing what's there. And it's a shit show all over the place.
Yeah, it is. Real quick before we move on, Cars, you got your first
Oh boy.
Super chat here from Ron D. Ambrosio. He probably is glad that I read his name and not Phil, because Phil would have butchered it, I'm sure. Maybe I
Somehow
even
he
did.
would have been like Donald something
Yeah.
if Phil had read it. But thank you, Ron, very much. Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
First super chat for Cars Keys, showing some
Ugh.
love. Thanks, TTNL, for trying to talk us through these fun times. And that's, Cars and I were talking pre-show via text, and as bad as everything is, this is going through these shows is very therapeutic. But I find myself during the week really just almost distancing myself from
Yeah,
sports radio, from everything, because it's the same thing over and over and over again. It's the same narrative from everybody. But
it's
when I
all
can get on here
narratives.
with Cars and with Phil and Cherie and Claudio and Ivan and everybody that's involved with TTNL, it's always a therapeutic process when we can get on here and talk about it, because we know, you guys know, when we're talking, that we're not trying to give you bullshit. We're speaking from the heart, and we want what's best for this team. We're not somebody that isn't invested in the Bears, that is just reading the headlines and assuming a bunch of stuff. So, Ron, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Just real quick update. Super chat is something that we just have dove into last night, starting, and I'm keeping it 100. We're going to have some more offers for people in terms of some logos and stuff that'll be involved for people that do get involved in the super chat. But you'll always be highlighted, and we will answer every super chat question in the chat when they are put up there. So we appreciate it, Ron. Thanks, man.
No, but I think you're right. It's been really hard to, again, it's why I've sat down and have kind of backed off social media, because once one person gets a narrative and starts it, it takes off. Just like the Peanut Tillman thing from yesterday, right? And how many people ran with that piece and started to share, I heard that, yep, I heard that, yep, I heard that, and it just tears off. It is to be honest, I was dreading this show up until today, because it is so depressing sometimes. I'm 45 years old. I have 2 Super Bowl chances. I've had a team that has let me down. You're muted, Shayne.
I was giving you a compliment. I was calling you a young pup. Over
I
45.
am not much of a young pup. It is difficult. Like, you don't do this stuff, and you don't invest the time if you don't love this team and you don't want them to be good. And it's just devastating when you get there, and we have been waiting for so long for us to have a good team and for us to be consistent. We can't, and it breaks my heart. Like, it devastates when my kids come down and they're like, "Dad, are you okay?" You know that it's bad. So, like, you're not even yelling anymore, Dad. You are just,
Yeah, it does. It takes the wind out of your sails for sure, man. No,
I
I
got
totally
it,
get
man.
it. But you got another one here, Cars, from
Oh
Bears
boy.
fan Goomba. Love the show, and thanks for filtering out the bullshit. And thanks so much, man. We appreciate it. And that's, listen, we understand we're not for everybody. People get very upset with Phil's approach. Sometimes they get upset with my approach. Sometimes some people don't like it that we swear. Some people just don't like it that we're honest. They
Some
don't like
people
it
don't
that
like
we,
if you're too positive
yeah.
sometimes.
Oh,
Yeah.
exactly. Some people don't want to hear any negativity at all. Hey, why are you beating up Justin? Well, if we're based on tape, and if we see something on tape that we take issue with, we are going to talk about it. It doesn't matter if you're a first round draft pick, a first round quarterback, or if you're a seventh round QB or a seventh round backup offensive tackle. We're going to highlight it, and we're going to show people what you did, what you should have did, and why you are wrong. Doesn't mean that you can't improve from it. But it's just, I know people want to give the Bears the benefit of the doubt, but the where I am at with the benefit of the doubt with this team, they don't deserve it. Change means nothing with this team, because That's all they've had lately is change, and it's still the same mess. Always. Oh, culture. Lucas Patrick is here because of the culture. That just tells me you're building your fucking team wrong. You're a 3-win team. I don't need a journeyman offensive lineman on my team that's going to hold me together. I'm going to build my team with guys with big upside. Yet maybe some bumps in the fucking road, but my coaching staff is here to coach them out of those bumps. I don't need a 30-year-old, 31-year-old journeyman offensive lineman that's a nice guy. It means nothing to my team. If that is going to fracture your locker room, you did a shitty fucking job building it. End of story. I don't know how else to say it. Bears fan Goomba, thank you so much.
Yes, very much.
Appreciate you, brother. Awesome gesture by you. I know Cars appreciates it.
Absolutely.
But thanks for participating, man. Love you.
No, and listen, my kids, a few people may like you take it too seriously. No, my kids are freaking out that I'm not yelling, like that I'm not into the game. That is what the concern is. Because like I'm one that will sit down and yell at the refs or get all upset. And they're like, this is the quietest you have watched 2 football games ever. Like when we score, I'm not up and cheering. When it's, I'm happy and there's a clap, but I'm not like, it's not there.
Yeah, you're waiting for the shit show that's going to follow it up. That they're going to get gashed on teams or they're going to get gashed on defense. That's been the Chicago Bears way, man. I'm right there with you.
And Lawrence here really, Lawrence Crispin really calls it out because it is like I get so depressed, and so I completely agree with this. Right, like it is a sadness right now, and it's nothing more than just listen. I gave up on the Bulls during this last season. Finally, I couldn't do it. I gave up on the White Sox. I'm a White Sox fan. A long time ago. The Bears, because it's 17 games now, because every game counts. It's the thing. My dad and I bonded over football Sundays like so many of us did growing up. It's such a big deal. I feel like, it's such and hey, listen, I will take it, Lawrence. I'm glad I pronounced it correctly as well. But you build all this time, and I love that. It is a big deal, right? And I just kind of keep looking at this right now and just saying, I just want it to be good. I so strongly remember in the 80s, like my dad watching the game, his buddies coming over, how loud they got when the Bears were good, how exciting they are when they were good, how the city is such a vibrant thing when the Bears are good, that it was there's a level of apathy that is kicked in right now that breaks my heart, because as a diehard Bears fan, I barely have clothes that don't say Bears on them for daily wear.
Oh man, I went to Riley's game yesterday. Wasn't feeling good at all, but no matter what, I'm always going to be there to support my son, even if I removed myself from the general public because I didn't want to get anybody else feeling the way that I felt. But I was sitting there getting ready to go to the game, and it's customary. You grab a Bears hoodie or windbreaker or Bears hat, and I'm like, I couldn't even force myself to do it. I'm like, no, gotta go with something else. Didn't want to deal with it because even here in New York, you go and Jesus, I went. Where the hell was I? Oh, I was at the car dealership, and I was there. I think I texted you guys.
Yeah.
I was there for like 20 minutes, and the Bears still suck. I got 2 of those in 20 minutes.
Aren't any of them talking about the offensive genius that Brian Dable is this season?
Yeah,
No?
exactly,
Oh, interesting.
exactly.
Interesting how that
But
works
that's
out.
and I'm a smart ass. I can shit talk with the best of them, but I didn't even have anything to say. I'm like, I got nothing, guys. You got me. You got me.
I don't even know how to do this right now.
We're just gonna call him Twan.
I'm Twan. There we go. I'm Twan too. There we go. Yeah, the Peyton Manning Super Bowl. If you had told me, after the freaking kickoff that we were going to lose the way that we did,
Yeah.
I would have been I would never have believed you. And to sit through that, the double doink, which I think is
2
sadly,
days I missed 2 straight days of work after the Super Bowl loss. I
oh,
couldn't I did not leave my house. My immediate family, I didn't have my kids or anything like that, but I isolated myself for, like, 2 weeks. I'd
oh,
go to
it's
work, not talk I wouldn't talk to anybody. It absolutely affects my life to an unhealthy level. I'll wake up on a Monday, my kids always help me. They'll do something goofy or get my mind off of it, so that they do help, but it affects my general everyday, the
it's
bear.
but he nails it at that last one. It's just constant disappointment. For folks, when I say like I get sometimes ripped on for being too positive, it's because I want to have hope. The
Yeah,
second I get to that point where I don't have hope anymore,
it's over.
I don't root for the team. Like it just you have to earn my loyalty, and the Bears have, for whatever reason, held on to it. And I just kind of keep going and saying like it'll get better, but at some
We're gonna
point,
rent a convertible and drive to a big canyon. We're gonna
oh,
Thelma and Louise it,
I
cars,
I think
and
that makes
we'll
a
live stream it on TTNL, and
totally agree.
yep.
And so I'm Twan, thank you very much. And then for Sean Stewart, yes, this is therapy for all of us. It
Yeah, we're a
is.
lot cheaper than normal therapists, that's for sure. Thank you
As
so
someone
much.
who has spent a lot of time in therapists' offices, I can tell you that's for 100% fact. And I understand that we're depressed. And so again, Sean, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. You know, it's not a funeral. I think there's the one thing that I want to keep saying is when you look at these things and when you see, if I go back to kind of some of these plays, if when you see that like or this play and you can see that there are yards to be made. And when you look at this play where it goes to DJ and it's a big gain and you see that there are things to say, there remains hope. Like however you want to look at it. If you want to get excited, go watch some of Dexter's tape from in the run game this past week.
Yeah, the first half stuff, I mean, it gets progressively worse if we're being
As he
honest.
gets pounded to submission, absolutely.
And he needs to get in better shape. That'll come with another NFL offseason in the strength program and stuff like that. But Cars, there's things there on tape exactly what you want to see. It's not perfect, but there's just things there just in strength where he is ripping, throwing guys to the ground and making the play. Not perfect, but you're seeing incremental steps from Javon Dexter.
And it goes like, yes, Darnell Wright has some misses, but you can understand why they wanted him and why they believed in Dexter.
Oh yeah,
Dexter has so much
there's
ceiling.
been so many people that have been banging on Darnell Wright, and I'm like, what the fuck are you?
Yeah,
I don't know what they're seeing, other than I just think they're pessimistic overall, and just they want to throw everything into the volcano. Darnell Wright has had some bad plays, but man, overall, I think about where this kid's going to be in year 2, year 3, year 4.
I'm
And if he can
excited.
stay healthy, holy shit, yeah. No, I
And
agree.
Tyree Carter, like the right side of the line played, and that was what, a 7th round pick the previous year, or
Is that what
6th
Carter
round
was?
pick.
Yeah, right around there.
I
Yep.
mean, that guy has really shown, and yeah, he's not as physical, and you'd rather have Nate Davis out there for right now, but this guy has shown that he can play, and so there are positives. Tyreek Stevenson didn't. Yes, there were 2 massive push-offs. Guy's still competing. Yeah, we're going to get beat in the defensive backfield because it's all so many young folks. You're going to expect it. So there is hope. There is still belief. Like, I understand that Jalen Carter has looked great, but I really understand that if you want Justin Fields to be good, you have to protect him. If you want to give him a fair shot and you want any chance of him not ending his career on just like another quarterback that we ruined, You don't want it to be like Jay Cutler. We made all this investment in you, and the best offensive lineman we ever
Right.
signed was Frank Omiel, right? It just doesn't work that
And
way.
and Johnny Knox was
Yeah.
the 5th round flyer that you took, and Devin Hester, wide receiver 1. But Carr's kind of talking about that. I don't think you and I have talked about it on air yet, but Josh Lucas was on, a couple of different Bears related shows. And he talked about he thinks with the Bears front office and with Justin Fields, yes, they have made improvements to help Justin. He thinks from the outside looking in, there's still a lot of gray area there. Have they bent over backwards? Have they went above and beyond out of their way to give Justin Fields absolutely everything to leave no doubt? I kind of agree with him.
No, they haven't. And that's the hard part is as fans, like how many of us are killing them that they haven't done enough?
But did they do that because they're not 100% sold with what they've seen around Hallisall on a day-by-day basis, that they're not sold on him becoming what they need to win? Now,
I-
I forget, and I should have this here. There was a guy that tweeted, and you guys have heard me say I tend to look at things from a different perspective, and I have to give this guy credit. Unfortunately, I don't remember his name. He was tweeting, I believe, to Greg, talking about, do you think that it's possible that part of their philosophy was to put Justin in uncomfortable situations, making him stay in the pocket to prove that he can become a pocket passer, because that's ultimately is going to get them where they want to go if they have to invest in this kid?
I can understand why people would think that. I truly don't. And the reason I say that is they, to me, are looking at this at constructing a roster properly,
Mhm.
meaning drafting the
Well,
best available
Foles
and doing
alluded
all that.
to that today. Doing it the right way is a slow process.
And they're building it for the long haul. I think the opposite of that is they expected him to take a step and not have these yips. Because what was weird is this whole thing about they're trying to make him a pocket passer. Shayne, what was Justin Fields in college? A pocket
Right?
passer.
Yeah.
What was he his first year? A pocket passer. What did they start last season with? A pocket passer. So this whole idea that they're trying to turn him into a pocket passer is a really weird thing. I think they want to limit some of the scrambling, because even in some of those big scrambles, there were plays and throws that Justin should have and could have made, but they didn't. And we didn't really necessarily flag them because he was so athletic and so crazy, he would rip off a run. But there were plays last year from the pocket to be made that he missed. So this whole idea that they're trying to make him
Right.
what he wasn't is not the case. He has always been a pocket passer. He was not a guy in Ohio State that ran and scrambled a ton. So I
So
just, yeah,
maybe the better way to ask you is just to kind of not go all conspiracy theory, but if you were to put a percentage on the belief in this front office moving forward with Justin Fields, do you think that they're all in?
it's a
Or do you think it's
50-50 toss up.
50-50 toss up? And
Yeah.
that says a lot.
I think it's all on him. I think there's going to be a renewed focus on the game plan this week. I think my biggest takeaway from watching this game and going, and I could have thrown up so many screenshots. Luke Getsy is still calling a lot of things like it's last year. A lot of max protects, a lot of chips. You're leaving in a tight end and a running back to both chip. And defenses are doing exactly what they did after the good streak, which is, hey man, we're just going to drop 6 into coverage. 7 into coverage. But when it's 7 into coverage, just know that one of those linebackers is solely focused on Justin Fields. They're going to do all of these different things, and it's and that's what's happening. So the pressure is truly on Justin right now, because defenses, and I'll show a quote, but before I do this, I want to say thank you to Shoeless. It has been a rough few years. The Tony La Russa years were devastating, but I appreciate it. Absolutely, that is a massive problem. But thank you for watching. And what I mean by that is, I don't know how many folks saw this as a in the tweets, but when you look at what Alex Rollins here is saying, is teams are now watching Justin, and they're basically having everybody drop with eyes remaining on him. And I'll go back to show you the one play that I wish Justin would have thrown, because there's more space. But Justin is not throwing in those spaces, right? His eyes are not great. It's just not happening. So again, if you want to look sort of at what that spot drop is, I want you to see, if you look at the top of the screen here all the way, or at the back of the screen all the way at the 30-yard line, and look at where that safety is. Teams are continually deploying safeties one high, deep, and they are not doing anything but watching what happens. And so if you look at, you've got here, I think that's Tanyan at the bottom by the 40. He's got a guy that's in coverage, and that safety is watching where he goes. You've got two other guys kind of here in the middle. Whichever one has to take the wide receiver, you'll notice the bottom defensive back or linebacker is actually charging up at the play, because there is another wide receiver breaking, or tight end who chipped, breaking late. If you look at this, if this ball comes out and it is thrown with any sort of anticipation, that is a first down. But what that tweet is saying, if you go back to it, is saying that there is space, but Justin's eyes are leading defenders to that space. Yep. And so this is the problem that is really happening, is that he is seeing something and he's afraid to throw it because he doesn't want to throw the interception. And this idea now that like the coaches are 100% to blame is not the case, because this has been this way. This is the biggest issue for quarterbacks coming out of college. The biggest issue is always, I need to go from the guy is open, then I throw it, to throwing with anticipation and throwing a guy open. That is the biggest leap that all these quarterbacks, Zach Wilson has a cannon of an arm. Guess what he can't do? Throw with anticipation. We watched for a decade plus. What is Aaron Rodgers really good at? Throwing at anticipation. That is the difference between a good quarterback and a not good quarterback.
That was the allure of Bryce Young, who I wasn't super high on as an NFL prospect, just because of his frame. That's why. His processing and his anticipation throws are fantastic. Size is an issue, but
that's why he's already going to miss the third game of his career.
Exactly.
He's already out injured, right? So you were right there. But you're right. That is where the conversation came in. If Bryce Young, I'll say this with all the confidence in the world, if Bryce Young was 6'1" or taller,
drafted him.
The Bears would have drafted him.
I agree.
It would have been a no-brainer. And listen, they would have moved Justin and tried to give him a shot. But he right now, and again, it's part of that issue of coming from a Ryan Day offense in Ohio State. You don't throw a guy open. You just wait till the guy gets open and then you throw it. And when you've got Garrett Wilson, Olave, Smith and Jigba, and all of those weapons, those guys are going to be open. It's what happens. And so for him to make the leap, he's got to trust what he's seeing, trust the process. He's got two good wide receivers in Mooney and Moore that he's got a good connection with. He's got a good connection with Kmet. He has got to throw with anticipation. If he does not throw with anticipation, it is done. It is
Right.
done for him, and he's on to the next.
So, real quick, and you have another super chat, but I want to address this because this is what we do at TTNL. We don't settle for bullshit like Tony posted here. We basically traded away Roquan for Claypool. Well, basically, that's not true at all. That's not what they did. They got a second and a fifth in linebacker AJ Klein. You have to look beyond that. What it did, it freed up the money for you to sign 2 linebackers in free agency in Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards.
But
Go ahead.
But Tony is right in the fact that they have made these moves with the belief in helping Justin Fields out. We can't sit down and say they haven't, right? There are 6 new starters on offense, but anyway. Yeah, I know you. I know what you
agree
mean.
with that, but the overall point is they made that trade. I believe it was after the New England win, wasn't it, or leading? Maybe after the Dallas game, it was right in there because he played a good game against New England, and I get that, but it's not just cut and dry. They made that to help Justin. I guess when I made the comment earlier about have they done enough and have they went above and beyond, what I'm saying is last year you didn't have the first rounder because of Justin Fields. So you had 2 second round picks and a third rounder. You went DB, and I know it's because they had these guys higher on their board. And then your first offensive pick was Velus Jones, a wildly raw prospect that we said on draft night should have never been the pick. Well, then you come around, you do go offensive tackle at number 10 after the trade down. But then again, you come back, you have the 2, you could have had the 3 second rounders. You just traded one for Claypool, but then you go defensive tackle and corner. And then you come back in round 3 and you go defensive tackle yet again.
Yep.
My thought process is, and I understand that you have to stay true to your board, but when you're that early in the draft with some of those picks, if you're going to go above and beyond and give him absolutely everything, did they go above and beyond? If they were 100% sold on the kid, I think that they would have bent over backwards to bring in as much firepower as possible.
You would have seen what the Bengals did with Joe Burrow.
Let's be on the cars. If Chase Claypool came in here and lit the place on fire, would they have traded for DJ Moore?
No.
Exactly.
No.
That's my point. I was probably a little strong on Tony, but my point is you trading Roquan opened up financially for you to sign Tremaine Edmonds, TJ Edwards, and in that trade, you got a 5th rounder who was Noah Sewell. And you got AJ Klein, special teamer, not on the team anymore. But so now you have to look at it. Would you rather have Roquan Smith on your team where he clearly fits better in a 3-4 defense, or would you rather have Edmonds, Edwards, Noah Sewell, and what was there anything else in that? I don't think so. But it was right around there. So it's not just a cut and dry. It was Claypool.
Well, I think to your point though, it's like, when you're fighting with your significant other and you want to say like, I wish you would communicate more. And they're like, well, I texted you yesterday. Like, yes, that is a bit more than normally, but that doesn't mean that you have communicated enough. If there could have been other steps, there could have been other moves. We keep hearing about, we didn't draft a center, right? There very well could have been a move there. And I understand.
I thought, and you know where I'm going, Cars. You've heard me talk about. I thought on draft night, I feel like the defensive tackle they wanted overall I think that the 2 that they wanted, I think they wanted Dexter clearly, but I think they wanted the kid from Wisconsin that went to Pittsburgh.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
blanking on his name. Somebody will throw it in the chat there.
Herbig.
No.
Oh,
Somebody will have it in the.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm totally blanking on his name. But anyways, I think that
Benton. Keanu
Benton.
Benton.
Yeah, Keanu Benton. I think the two that they wanted was Benton and Dexter would be my guess. But
I think they really wanted Dexter. I can't, as much as I like Tyreek, I don't understand that trade up and move when you look at it. As great of a player as and as excited as I am for him, to have done that, and then the very next play is when John Michael Schmitz goes.
Yeah. Well, don't you think that is more of a concern because they're looking for a guy kind of similar, Jalen Johnson, and the financial expectations and being a free agent, they want to cover the bases, and this is something that we've praised Ryan Poles for. He's seeing the potential for a hole and filling it with a quality player before it becomes a hole.
Yeah, it's good. I think that's the hard part with all of this when it goes back to what Poles has done. You understand the reason for so many of it. And to your point, I do think there's some anticipation because the fact that he's not signed here for an extension, and one thing we'll be on is watch for him now, because if this season continues to go this way, I think you'll see Jalen Johnson probably moved at some point just for additional draft capital if it continues down this path. But it is concerning again that is like it right now, and I think some of this is because your coach is a defensive coordinator. Ty goes to the defense or to defense, and it shouldn't be that case because defense doesn't. Not that it doesn't matter, but like if you don't have a good offense, your defense doesn't matter. It just doesn't. If you can't drop
If you're on the
30
field
points,
every snap, right?
Yeah, if you can't drop 30 points a game at any moment, you just can't. And so if Justin Fields is not the guy, the only reason I say you're going to make another hole, and I'm okay with that, is because the Bears are going to have to massively reload. And they're going to finally, if you look at what they will do, if they go again really poorly, you will draft a quarterback. You will draft either Olu or Marvin Harrison Jr. with your second pick. And then you are going to spot fill everywhere else on offense and start to backfill these positions. And you will take these chances on defense because you finally need to build an offense. Like, we've been talking about this for our entire lives, Shayne.
Oh yeah. Tell me about it.
We've had in our lives 1 year, the first Trestman year, where we were an exciting offense. And then we had the Eric Kramer year in 95.
Yep.
That's it. That's been in 45 years of my life, and really all basically 30 years of my adult life. We suck on offense. We've never done it. And so we have been doing proper building of a roster. We want to do all these things, but at some point you've got to switch and be like, this is an offensive league. There's a lot of good talent on offense right now, which I also think is getting undersold. But you've really got to double down. If you look at what the Rams have done, if you look at Detroit, right, and the way that Detroit has built that team from the front line back, you have to do this. And if this season is a lost season, I think you really want to start moving guys. Again, Jalen doesn't make the turnovers that you want. He's not impacting games as much as you want. Those sorts of things, you've got to do it. And it's unfortunate, but that's where we are.
All right, so we got a couple super chat things here for you from Herb the Herb Man. I like that. Great show as always. Hopefully the storm passes sooner rather than later, and the Bears are relevant again someday. And thanks, Herb. We totally appreciate your
Absolutely. Thank you.
gratitude there. Yeah, it is, man. We all want this to pass, but unfortunately, I think it was Chubbs put in the chat. You know, there's potential, but at some point potential is only going to get you, excited, and then you're just not going to believe it anymore. You have to see these guys making plays. But the other side of the coin with that is when you have a guy that out there that is showing potential and you're not going to give him the chance in a Roshan Johnson in a game where he should have never only had 4 carries, and one of them, what was his long, a 29-yard run?
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Something
It's
like
just
that. Yeah.
and that goes back to the game plan. That goes back to the coaching staff. Let these guys. Flus himself has said, "Hey, we're not afraid to play these young guys and let them go out there and make plays." Well, run them, run them.
They are on defense.
Yeah,
And there's
not
not
on
on
offense, right.
offense. And so, I know that we've been really down and it's depressing. The season's not over. I said multiple times, I'm going to give this thing till week 4 and then we'll know. And you've got 2 more weeks. In Kansas City, let's be real. Kansas City through 2 games has scored 37 points. 37 points. Yes.
They'll score more than that against Chicago this weekend. I feel like.
I can't say that. And the reason for it is once you get past Travis Kelce, nobody on that wide receiver group scares me. And so it's not going to be like Tampa is a bad example for us because that's Evans.
Right. But I'm looking at
Godwin.
if you're giving up elite Hall of Fame like numbers on 3rd down to Baker fucking Mayfield, what's Patrick Mahomes going to do? He's going to make lesser talent at wide receiver.
So the argument, the counter to that is like he's throwing to Godwin and Mike Evans, and it's not him doing it. But I get it. Right. Like I totally get that. But I really look at this and say, if this is a blowout game where we lose big, I think you really as a front office have to force a change to be made. If this team comes through and competes and fights, and let's be real, like Chris Jones made a big impact last week, but Kansas City has not looked impressive. Kansas City has not looked good. Mahomes has missed quite a bit, and so this is a game that, he'll come up and start flashing his draft number again and all of those things to happen. But if this game doesn't look better, if their ball is not coming out on time, you have 2 moves that you can make. One is to fire Luke Getsy. The other is to bench Justin Fields. I would want number 1 way more than number 2. I don't even want number 2 at this point. You would have to move from Luke Getsy.
Yeah, you got to make a Getsy move before you make a Justin Fields move.
What do you feel? Yeah. What do you feel like?
Oh no, listen, I get it.
I know you're with me that you think
if they're going to bench Justin Fields, I mean, it's you've drawn your line in the sand, and you're razor thin because I don't want to get into draft talk or anything like that yet. I don't know how you feel, Cars. I'm a big fan of Caleb Williams. I'm not a Drake May guy so much. I think is it you that likes him a little bit more?
I do like him a bit. Like he's a way better person than Mitch was, so I think he gets some.
Yeah, I'm just not ready to, and I don't think I ever will be tying myself to that moving forward. And then you're talking about QB3 at this point, and I know a lot of people are going to be getting fired up, but I mean, you talk about wide open. I mean, it very well could be Sanders.
Oh, at this point, Sanders is going to be
and I mean, and I know if that happens, and that's where the Bears are. Is it a pat? Do they go full blown Hollywood and blow the doors in and get the Sanders package deal in Chicago? And I mean, I don't want to open up those coffers, but it's your chance at Caleb Williams is, and I don't want to hear that you have the 2 first rounders. What teams that are going to be in contention for the number 1 overall pick in Caleb Williams, what teams are trading out of number 1?
Well, so I mean,
It's
Houston can't, Carolina can't.
yeah.
Arizona's going to be all in.
Oh yeah.
And I think there's going to be other teams. Who was it? It was Sean Payton before he took the coaching job, where he said, if you think tanking is an issue, wait till you see this year when Caleb Williams can come
it
up.
was Sean Payton. Yeah, he did say that. Yep.
And he said, because you are going to see tanking like you have never seen it before. And you see Arizona trying, but I don't know why they, you're going to be stuck with Kyler's contract. No one's taking that atrocity. You should have never done it in the first place.
Yeah.
But if you look, I think you're right. Nobody is.
Yeah, just real quick, Nathan, they can say that now, but when you're QB3 in a draft, that very well means you could be a top 4 pick if you're slotting Marvin Harrison at 3 to whoever is there. Things change. I mean, you're a top 4, top 5 pick in the NFL draft. You're never going to make that money back, and you're going to go back, and yes, you have the NIL, but injuries happens, things happen. Yeah,
Matt Barkley at USC was going to be a number 1 pick. He went back, and he went what, 5th or 6th round when he went. Like, someone will get into his ear and talk about the risk of the money that he's living up. So I think it's there. I understand the point, but I don't think it's a thing. We've got a few other super chats. So Corn Planter, I don't have much anticipation, because if I would have had anticipation, I would have predicted the losses and understood that this would have been a loss of a year. So I anticipate poorly. I need to work on that as well. I got to go back and watch the film of myself and make sure I deliver stats with better anticipation.
That's what his wife says too. So
absolutely, we'll not even go there. Gilo does, yes, thank you. It is fire. Maybe at the end of the season we will set Cars Keys completely on fire if the season continues to go this way.
Live on air.
Or maybe at the end of the season, it will be a picture of a dumpster before the fire, before we go. So, and then last but not least, when we have Jeremy Anastasi. So I disagree with one of these takes here. So first off, thank you very much. But we did address the D line a lot. So you signed Andrew Billings. You took 2 of your top 4 picks into defensive tackles. You signed DeMarcus Walker. You signed Yannick Ngakoue. You signed Rasheem Green. There was a ton there done. They focused very heavily on the run defense, which, yes, they're getting gashed and a little bit tired because the offense can't do anything, but they are doing better. And again, if you go back and look at some of the Dexter tape, and even some of the Billings tape, Billings is doing pretty well in the run game. Justin Jones is there. He's a better rotational guy. We need to move him back. I think they're pushing Dexter more because they want him to be, they want him to be the 3-tech starting by the end of the season. They did a lot there. You're absolutely right on the center position. I don't understand that one at all. I think they just sort of assumed that they would stay healthy the whole way.
And Cars, I'm going to repeat myself again. You and I have talked about this 100 times. Why not? If you're going to gamble on anything, gamble on the upside of a player.
Yes.
Rather than gambling on maybe the guy will be healthy. I don't understand that. If you're going for a Super Bowl, maybe you can sell me on that this veteran guy that can get you over the hump, but he just needs to stay healthy. You're a 3-win team. Why the fuck is Cody Whitehair, who is a shell of himself, Lucas Patrick, who is at best a leader but a journeyman,
both over the age of 30?
Why are they out there? Tell me why. You can't tell me anything that I will believe other than we just couldn't get enough done because we have so many fucking holes. But the point is, and I know it's a lightning rod topic, and yes, he's on a practice squad. I would feel much better about gambling on Dieter Iceland's upside, giving him a chance, because I already know who Lucas Patrick is. I
You
already know that.
You had me until you had to mention Dieter.
Oh, I know.
But like
I knew,
I
but
completely
you get my point.
no, I absolutely do.
You're a
Like
3-win team. Gamble on upside, not veteran leadership with a journeyman.
and so Jeremy, again, thank you very much for this. You're absolutely right, because I think one of the biggest letdowns is I've not been happy with what I've seen out of Cody Whitehair at 13 plus a season. I have not been happy, and it was unfortunate to see Eddie Jackson go down and get injured again, entering his 30th season. Like, it shouldn't be a shock that the
Age 30.
injured
Age
guys
30.
age
Hasn't been
30.
in the league 30 years.
Sorry, age 30. Thank you.
That'd be like a record, I think.
That's the other thing. The Bears is always, it's just like Robert Quinn. If these guys can just stay healthy while they're old and play like they used to, this will be a great season. Nobody in the NFL does this anymore. You don't believe that a guy is suddenly going to get more healthy the older that they get. And if you had gone back and said, hey, at the beginning of this year, Shayne, we're going to also release Cody Whitehair, and we're going to release Eddie Jackson to free up some cap space. And yes, we understand that it creates a hole, and we appreciate everything that they've done, but we need to be at a point where we are giving more playing time to young kids, and we've got to build this roster from the ground up. That's the way that this should have been. This team expected 31-year-old Cody Whitehair to be 26, 27-year-old Cody Whitehair.
Yeah, I mean
That's the way it is. And so I think you look at this right now, that, and as good as the line has played, Braxton Jones has let up some plays. It's really unfortunate he's gone on IR. I understand how some of these things look, but I feel like if we let them play, it'll be better. If when Tevin Jenkins comes back, if he comes back, and I'm not saying I know anything, but he's another one of those players you just cannot rely on to play. At this moment, we're 35 games into his career. He's played 17 of them, and 11 of them he's played more than 50% of the snaps, either due to conditioning or working himself out, or because he gets injured in the middle of the game.
And 50% of the snaps is a absolutely abysmal bar to be shooting for.
It's a ridiculous thing, but they counted on him to be healthy. Doug Kramer would probably be playing at center instead of Lucas Patrick if he could have stayed healthy, but he came in injured. He got injured again. We spent an entire offseason spending money on guys, and we overlooked some of the guys on a roster that probably should have gone. And it's not an insult to Cody or to Eddie. They're just old and injured a lot and aren't the same player that they used to be. You don't give a guy a starting role and name him a captain or name him a leader because of what he used to do. That it's got the performance has to meet. If Eddie is gone for a long chunk again, both of those players are gone next year. What have you accomplished in a lost year?
Right. And Jeremy, what I'd say to this is you have to project forward. DeMarcus Walker, I believe he got a 3-year deal, correct?
3 for 9 or something like that. Yeah.
No, yeah, he was actually like 21, right?
Let me look. I gotta go back. You're right.
I think it was like 3 and 21.
You're right.
So that one is, and still, I think he's a better player on the inside. But Yannick Ngakoue, it's a 1-year deal. Billings got a 1-year deal. At this point, they're not long-term investments like a Pickens or a Dexter, or I mean, if you're gonna get a 3-year deal in Walker, that is a long-term investment in NFL years. So they're guys that are placeholders until they can listen. Their overall thought process was, if they believed in Justin and he went out and proved that he is going to be the guy moving forward, then you very, very well may have doubled up at defensive end in this upcoming draft. Who knows? I mean, there's a lot of offensive linemen coming out too, but that's ultimately where you're going to see those moves. The big moves is in the draft. And not a lot of guys hit the free agent market that are, going to be massive difference makers.
Hargrave was the only one that you could have argued from a pass rushing
And
perspective
plus 30. Yeah.
would have been a difference maker. Like Draymond Jones was the best supposed pass rusher on this thing. And Draymond Jones, it wouldn't have excited me a ton. I would have understood the move because I think he's never had a 10 sack season. He's topped out at 6.5, right?
Yeah.
There weren't guys this year to do that. And that's by the nature of this sport. If you're a good pass rusher, you don't hit free agency. Just like if you're a really good offensive lineman, you don't hit free agency. The ones that do are old and in decline. Hargrave put up his first double-digit sack season at 29. His first double-digit. He was the best pass rusher, and it wasn't even close. I totally get it. I don't think any of the rookie defensive ends are lighting the world on fire either. It's just there was so much. I think the biggest fault that I give to Ryan Poles is I think he really underestimated how bad the roster was when he gutted it. I think they really planned on some of these guys making bigger steps than they were truly capable of. And so some of the moves said, Dominique Robinson is going to make that next step. So we don't, if we don't have a guy there, we're going to do that. And that was a miss. And I think that is really the biggest fault that I find with him is he thought we weren't as bad as we were. And it's unfortunately coming back to bite him in the butt right now.
Yeah, and that's what sends me back to Travis. I understand if you're not the absolute perfect fit, and I know he's not eating it up in Tennessee, but at the same time, I just don't know how you move on from him for nothing. You know what I mean? The way that this roster is constructed, it makes. And then you're going to come out and praise the kid for being a hard worker and, but we need to see it on the field. Well, yes, I understand you were playing against some backups in the offseason. Well, so were the other guys that didn't produce, that made the team.
Dominique Robinson got outplayed all preseason long, and it wasn't even close.
Yeah,
it wasn't even close.
We have a T-shirt for that. Performance over politics.
So it's, and wow, we're actually running way longer than normal. There's a lot of venting session in this, but
oh yeah,
it
happens.
The roster is way worse than they expected. I will say the roster is better than what they've shown, and I do not agree with these folks that say that they don't have the greatest, that they're the worst roster in the league. That's not the case. There is more talent. They're just not being put in successful places to win. And look good, and that is again the fault of the coaching staff. And so when they've missed badly, and we're paying it.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I was just looking over some of the defensive line free agents in 2024, and I know we're getting way ahead of ourselves. Chris Jones is the name on a 1-year deal, but part of that reworked 1-year deal is that it didn't remove the ability for Kansas City to tag him again.
Yep.
And you're talking about at that point, then you're talking about a 30-year-old, player. But then there's just a lot of retreads in there too. Carl Lawson is the name. Yeah, Marcus Davenport, Romeo Aquara from Detroit, Yannick Ngakoue is up there, Fletcher Cox, and that time frame doesn't fit in. The interesting name that people were willing to give up premium assets for, Chase Young, is going to be a free agent who fits the youth profile, but is that the biggest asset that he holds is just his youth. I mean,
He didn't play week 1 either, right?
right,
Like, it
right.
was another
No,
guy, and did he even play last week? I don't Oh,
I'm
he
not
did. He did, and he got 1.5 sacks last week.
okay. So there you
But
go. But it's, then you're getting down into the guys like Derek Barnett, Justin
you're old.
Jones. Yeah,
You're old.
Justin Jones is a guy that's Dorrance Armstrong is probably a guy that you would look at a little bit, that would fit in. But it's what is going to push you to the draft. And that's
No,
where you're going to find your guys on
and
the
it's
defensive
again,
line.
at some point, if these guys, yes, you're gonna create holes, but they're trying, and we'll see how it works. They're trying to build the roster the right way and build it through the draft for the vast majority, unless you can get a very cheap Tremaine Edmonds sort of thing. So, they're going to take more of their shots in the draft because then you have more control, they're more development prospects, and you're not overpaying for mediocrity. I understand the method. It is biting us in the ass right now. And if there's not mass improvement, and Jimmy Tony's right, Jared Verse would not shock me if as a pick if they land outside of the top 3 or 4, right? As a guy that they would go out and get. But it's these positions are all about, especially in the defensive line. Like, yeah, they spent a lot on defensive tackles. You do that because Philly gave you that model, right? They showed you, if I can just rotate guys in and out and keep them fresher, that is why Javon Hargrave had the best season that he's ever had. You rotate these guys in, you give them the ability. That is the way, running back by committee is one thing, defensive line by committee is another. And unless you have a top 1%, one of the a Watt or a Bosa, everything is going to be by committee to make sure that guys are staying fresh, that they don't get injured, and that you're getting the best out of all of them. That's what it's going to be. It's just, it's not there. You're muted again.
My bad. I sneezing in the background too much, and then I mute myself and then forget. I don't know if you're maybe you are, maybe you're not. Maybe I'm just reading it wrong. If you're talking about defensive tackle, so I mean, Cars and I talked about Jervon Dexter making strides. Pickens is been inconsistent, but I mean, I'm very happy with where he's at so far with things that he's shown. And I
Absolutely.
mean, Travis Bell, you're talking about a 7th round draft pick from Kennesaw State that's on the
Yeah,
practice squad. I mean, if you call that terrible at drafting, I'm glad you gave him 2 games into it. I guess you're
because
way. I maybe you're a prophet. I don't know what the deal is, but I mean, I don't understand how you're giving him 2 games into their rookie season. I mean, Jervon Dexter has played 5 years of football total in his life. 5 years. That includes high school, college, and pros. He's extremely raw. And guess what? He's younger than Jalen Carter. He's
well,
21 years old. Still, there's so much upside there, and he's showing progress. Legitimate big boy strength plays. Progress. Chubbs, check your DM on Twitter. I'll send you a couple clips that I think you'll like. I promise you. As soon as the show's over, I'll DM them to you so you can watch them.
but once Keon White went, that was kind of the last of the pass rushers, right?
Yep.
Like, and when you look back at that draft and you get past it, the names of these folks, whether it's Byron Young or it's the kid from USC or some of these others, they're not moving the needle at all for these teams.
Right.
Once Keon is there, you would. And no, Chubbs, it's not that you're not confident. It's
you have no bodies there.
Ian Cunningham came from Philadelphia, where they built up a rotation of players. The opposite, and what you're talking about, is more like what Washington has done, where Washington has an incredible front four and absolutely zero depth. And so when Chase Young is injured, or if Sweat is injured, they're not the same team. And you're always going to have a fall off. What you have to do is you want to rotate these guys in. All the teams are building this way. It is all about kind of getting through. Unless you have a Bosa or a TJ Watt that can be there down in, down out, playing and dominating, or a Max Crosby at Vegas, right? This is the way it is now. This is teams. This is no longer going to be the Akeem Hicks playing
Right.
90% of the snaps at a defensive end position. No, they want these guys closer to 50 to 60% of the snaps. They want them to keep fresh. It's in big part because of the addition of that 17th game. They do not want these guys wearing down, and they take a heck of a lot more damage now in that game, in that 17th game. Every game counts. And so, no, this is the way that you do this. This isn't an offensive line position where you're not rotating guys in. Defensive guys are in and out all the time. And it's just the way the league is. You might not like it or might not agree with it or may not see it yet, but go and watch. If you watch anything from Philly last year, if you watch a lot of what San Francisco does on the defensive line outside of Bosa, there's a lot of swapping guys and moving them around to try to create mismatch and wear down opposing offensive lines.
I hear you. That's probably a great place to end it, Cars. I know we went over. We usually try to stay to about 90 minutes, but we're pushing that 2-hour mark. So
I start to get antsy when we get there. Absolutely.
yeah. So just real quick, I'll run through it. Ron Ambrosio, Bears fan Goomba, Lawrence Chrisman, I'm Twan 2, Sean Stewart, Shoeless, Herb the Herb Man, Corn Planter, Gilo Dez, Jeremy Anastasi, our super chat participants tonight. We
Thank you
appreciate
very
you
much.
guys. Thanks for showing the love. This is the first Cars Keys under the super chat model, so that was fun. We appreciate everybody, of course, that showed up. We will be back here next week to break it all down and talk about the thrashing that is upon us in Kansas City. Maybe they'll shock the world. Who knows? But
I mean, both
we
the
will
Kansas City
be.
games were close, so
Yep.
I'm not going to do that. Kind of like if anybody watches the Princess Bride and the one guy says never bet against the Sicilian when death is on the line. Never bet on Matt Nagy blowing the doors off. If anybody can put training wheels back on Patrick Mahomes, they've got the right guy there to do it.
Yeah, we will see. But next week, I believe we'll be getting back to a little bit of normalcy here on TTNL. Monday night, the Super 16 poll show. I believe the Keeping It Fantasy guys are going to be making their season debut next week, unless something changes that I don't know about. Wednesday night, we will be live on Keeping It 100 with Zach Pearson, friend of the show, who I
Such a
got to
wonderful guy.
chat with a little bit yesterday, and the craziness. He's like, bro, he's like, it's nuts, but I don't want to give away any of his nuggets that he'll be sharing with us here next week. And then that brings us to Thursday, where we will be back here once again for season 2, episode 25 next week. Cars on Cars Keys. And but don't forget, as soon as the game goes final this Sunday, Phil and I will be here with BHL.
Get the fuck out of bed, bitch. Go. Get up and get the guy go.
And if you think this show is depressing, don't bother with BHL.
Exactly. No, it's
more.
usually, man, it's a BHL is an absolute monster on game days. I mean, it's hard to keep up with the chat room. I mean, we were up over 4,000 people live at one point in the chat room,
insane.
and it was crazy. It almost made you dizzy just watching the chat fly by. So yeah, we will do that. And if you are a TTNL network patron, like we hope that you all are, head over to the tapeneverlies.com to sign up. We will be going live like we do every game at halftime with a quick show to give you our live reaction to the first half of Bears versus Kansas City. But beyond that, Cars, you have anything else before we get out of
No,
here?
Jeremy, appreciate you. Thank you. Appreciate everybody. The only thing I ever have to say is I still can't believe that people tune in and listen to me nerd out and sometimes get my own therapy.
Did you ever
So
think 30 years ago, Cars, when we were in those Chicago Bears message boards, that we were going to be live on YouTube with all these people, spending their hard-earned money to listen to us and,
d-
you know,
it's
throwing you 19.99 just to say that, we love you and enjoy you. I mean, it's crazy.
it's insane. Like my Maisie today was like, "So how did you meet Mr. Shayne?" And I was like, "Well, I've never met him, and you're always Mr. Shayne," which makes me laugh.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Which I'm
Yeah,
like, "I've
Cars and
actually
I have never met face to
we've
face.
never met
Crazy.
face to face," and she's like, mind blown from this. She's like,
Yeah.
I don't. This doesn't even make sense. I don't understand." And if you had told me like that, we're in a room where one guy would where two guys would argue incessantly back and forth over the same point
Yeah.
in every thread that ever happened, and now I would be talking on YouTube, and my kid is bragging to everyone that she's now the intro to my show on a YouTube. I
Yeah,
never would have
no,
believed this. Yeah,
it's great. I have teachers from my son's school that they're obviously not Bears fans, but they realize what TTNL is and have heard of it and know who I am and stuff like that because my son goes to school there. And it's funny, they'll come up to me and they're like, "Hey, I gotta get some fantasy football advice from you." And I'm like, you're talking to the wrong dude. I have
oh God,
no
yeah.
interest in fantasy. I said I get too ramped up just watching the Bears. If I had, more on the line with other players and other teams, I'm not sure I could handle it. So I'm like,
I
hey, yeah,
can't. I
I'm not the
can't.
guy for fantasy football.
I'm doing a league this year, and I regret it already. But I was sort of forced to through work, and it's the same because I have Justin on my team, and I roughly had to bench him this week, and it breaks my heart. But
Yeah, my
yeah.
son benched Justin in his franchise on Madden, and it's the Tyson Bagent show because he tries to make all these trades, and I'm like, that's not realistic at all. Will you just, geez, drives me
What have you been
nuts.
reading Twitter?
Oh yeah, it's crazy. All right, we love you guys.
We
We're
love
gonna
you very much. Thank you so
get out of
much.
here. Thank you to you super chatters. It's still blows my mind that people are willing to do that. So we love and
Yes,
appreciate you.
very
All you
much.
patrons, we love you guys just as much, obviously. Thank you so much. So we are gonna be out of here. We'll leave you with a little ender before Bears Chiefs on Sunday. We'll see what happens.
Lord help us.
Here's fucking hoping. Thelma and Louise. Let's do it, Cars. Get out of here, buddy. Love you.